Our next speaker is born and raised Vancouverite, has been able to pursue her profession in the city that she truly loves. After brief stints in Whistler and California, she started her career in Vancouver with a great tan, no money, and a position at DC Shoes. Slowly, she moved into more senior marketing roles, and when Quicksilver acquired DC, she was appointed to oversee the marketing portfolio. Her efforts helped generate over $120 million in annual revenue inside the Canadian marketplace. In early 2010, she started to crave a global experience and a new challenge. She made the decision to take a risk and joined an unknown startup called Native Shoes. Within 3 short years, the business has grown to include distribution in over 48 countries. Native Shoes' success has made her even more determined to build global opportunities from the city she hopes to always call home. Please welcome Shawna Olsten.
Okay, so that almost gave it all away, but you're right, I can't see anybody up here. So my name's Shawna Olsten. I am a born and raised Vancouverite and very proud of this fact for some reason, but I guess being from Vancouver means a couple things to me, but what I've noticed recently is it means that the people that want to stay here are creating opportunities for themselves, which is creating a lot of excitement in the city. I was inspired by 2 very, very important people to me for my work ethic. It's my grandma and grandpa. My grandma came out here from the farm in Alberta when she was a teenager, and she spent 36 years working at St. Paul's Hospital. And my grandpa came out from Halifax after the war, and he actually worked in Cole Harbour, where he had a shop as a diesel marine engineer. So I guess I came from a family of hard workers. My father was a fisherman, and my mom, back in those days, she got to be a mom. That's what moms used to get to do. And they decided to raise their children in a small community just outside of Vancouver called Woodlands. Woodlands is the type of place that it has internet now, but it doesn't have street lights or stores or anything like that. It was kind of like being at summer camp all the time. And then I became a teenager, and Woodlands didn't become so cool anymore, and my mom decided I wasn't allowed to go to the Lollapalooza concert, so I decided it was a good time to move in with my dad. Seeing Courtney Love live was not worth the strain it put on my relationship with my mom over the next 10 years, but that was a decision I made at 13. But now I lived in Deep Cove, and Deep Cove has a bus stop. And so I was connected with the world. So not only could I go to Lollapalooza, but I could go to any show I wanted, and I got to experience a really cool, thriving, all-ages punk rock scene in the city, which I'm not sure if it exists anymore, but for any of us that ever have kids, you should totally let them do that too. So we'll call this my creative stage. And, you know, you might think, people might have said I was a challenged teenager, but the truth was I was experimenting, and I was experiencing, I was discovering myself. And my dad totally let me do this because he had certain rules. Get good grades in school. So I was so busy experimenting, that was a B+. Don't smoke cigarettes. Don't get tattoos. Do not do cocaine. Pretty simple stuff, right? Those were the things that would haunt me for the rest of my life. I was told my hair would grow back, the piercings would grow over, and they did. And by the time I hung up the leather jacket, I was totally over experimenting. I was done. I would just want to be normal. So I ended up in Whistler. And now I always knew I wanted to work in marketing. I love the energy around new ideas. Whistler didn't get me anywhere. But it did end up in California, where these redheads were making tons of money in action sports, and I thought this was so cool, and I wanted to be a part of it, but I wanted to do it in Vancouver. So I came back with every intention of returning to school, and I did for like 3 weeks, and then they wouldn't approve my student loan because I spent it all in California. So I went out looking for a job, and I wanted to work in action sports, and I landed a job as a receptionist at DC Shoes. I was the best phone answerer I think they probably ever had. I wrote a manual about how to answer the phone because I just wanted to move up in the company so bad. And eventually they let me. I got a shiny customer service title. I got a computer. I was allowed in the filing room. It was great. And I went back to school, and I was working for a really supportive company that paid for my entire education. And I slowly worked through operations. I worked in sales at one point. I worked in production, always sort of carving out a way in marketing. Like, I'll plan the Christmas party, the movie premiere, whatever it is. I just want to work in marketing. And I hit a crossroads, and I could have gone one way, which was more money at the time, and being in your early 20s, that would have been nice, but I wanted to be in marketing. So this was sort of a blue sky moment for me. I finally had my marketing job. I was committed to Vancouver and living off $29,000 a year. It was beautiful. It was bliss. But this is when something changed for me. DC Shoes got bought by a little $2 billion publicly traded company called Quicksilver, and I thought maybe my days would be numbered and maybe I'd be heading to Toronto next, but hey, it worked out. Look at these beautiful people that I got to work with and hire and train, and they were so amazing. But this is really where things started to fall into my lap, and I felt like all the hard work I'd put in was finally paying off. But I was hitting a ceiling. I was hitting a ceiling in Vancouver. I could only progress so far in my career if I wanted to stay here at Quicksilver. And I didn't hustle and struggle in this city to move to Orange County. So, as I approached, I guess, the end of the diving board here, I decided I wanted to take a risk and I wanted to try something new. So, I jumped off, I guess like a leap of faith. And as I was headed out the door, I was given some really great advice from a superior 8.5 years ago. I'd been a teenager with a phone, and now I was like 20-something and living my quote-unquote dream in Vancouver and hitting a ceiling. So I took this leap of faith, and I landed into a bright-colored pile of plastic shoes. The shoes weren't even in the market yet, but I really believed in this project. And as the third employee, it was clear on my first day, April Fool's Day, 2010. Left my other job on a Wednesday, started on a Thursday, huge mistake. Anyways, it was almost felt like a bad joke. I had signed up for way more than what we'd talked about, but it, again, was a risk I wanted to take because I wanted to have a global experience inside Vancouver. When we launched Native, we launched it globally right away because it was a totally new approach to design and footwear. I'd been in footwear for so long and I never even thought about anything new. But we had this new idea, and not one culture is the same, but people everywhere were embracing this, and all of a sudden, within 12 months, we were in 48 countries. So I'm so happy to finally show this off because it's been sitting in a drawer for way too long, and my fiance wants me to throw it out, but these are my boarding passes. So this is what it means to be global in Vancouver. You're not going to get to spend as much time here as you probably want to. And it's not going to be the kind of travel where you get on the plane and you take a left turn if you're working in a startup. But it is an amazing way to see the world. But what I've learned about the world in the last couple years has been valuable. But what I've learned about myself in this city is almost just as important. Every time I come down on that plane and I look out that window and I see the little trees and the mountains set against that blue ocean is how lucky I am that these opportunities exist in this city. I really do think Vancouver's awesome. I have so many friends that have had to leave to go start their careers somewhere else to realize their goals. I have made a commitment to Vancouver, and I want to thank all the businesses and the people that struggle the same, that make the same sacrifices just to make opportunities available to here, to people in the future and our community. Thank you so much.